Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration is an annual event. It's organized to honor members of the Nigerian armed forces who fought in the First and Second World Wars. It's also a day to commemorate those who served or are still serving in various peace support operations worldwide, as well as those who fought in the Nigerian Civil War.
Yeah, the dead and the living heroes, including all those who suffered various deprivations as a result of wars, are also remembered. TVC News' Ibrahim Shita examines the roles played by the armed forces to keeping us safe.
This sound of gunshots and explosions call to mind the pains, disaster and throes brought on those who witnessed the civil war in Nigeria. A conflict which resulted from political, ethnic, economic, cultural and religious tensions preceding Britain's formal withdrawal from Nigeria from 1960 to 1963. Among those on the front line of this battle are the Nigerian legions who put their lives on the line to protect the sovereignty of the Nigerian state. These fallen heroes have now become a monument to national memory, remembered annually in what is known as the Armed Forces and Remembrance Day celebration. This day commemorates both the dead and living heroes, including all those who suffered various deprivations as a result of wars. January the 15th, nationwide, military personnel including the Army, the Navy, the Air Force and the Nigerian Legion converge on different centers across the nation. Officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces have fought in various wars and taken part in many peacekeeping operations, defensive duties, anti-robbery operations, among other internal security assignments. Celebrating the day and giving honor to the fallen and living heroes who endangered and continue to endanger the lives for the territorial integrity of the nation and for peace to reign worldwide. The event is held at the federal, state and local levels, where either serving military officers reside or where living ex-servicemen are found.
It's so beautiful when you see all the, uniforms and the beauty of how all the officers stand and all of that. Those days I used to feel
Discipline.
like I need to be a military. But my mom would say, never, my son would never go into the military and all, but it's really beautiful. Now we have in the studio Colonel Tony Nyam. He is a retired colonel with us, a retired military officer here with us in the studio. Colonel, good morning.
Good morning.
And happy Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
Thanks for having me.
Really nice to see you.
I wish you the same.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have joining us at this time a retired military officer, Major General Abiodun Role. He's on phone. We greet you, sir.
Morning, General. All right, we'll have him as we get along. Colonel, let me come to you on this. Every year we've been celebrating or we've been commemorating the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, and it looks more like more of a ceremony now than the reality of what it really stands for. How do you see this?
I thank Nigerians that it's an occasion to really celebrate this, because the Nigerian Armed Forces has been the mainstay and remains the main institute of power that has sustained Nigeria. And we must thank them. It's been, many people have made sacrifices for this country. As I speak, as a young little boy growing up in Lagos, I remember the stories. My dad was in the Second World War, the same time with the likes of S.B. Bakari, and they all retired, and the above Oyekon. Okay. They were all in the same batch who served in Burma. And since then, Nigerians, soldiers or airmen have been making sacrifice for the country. And they have, in fact, as we speak, the greatest sacrifice they are making is what is going on right now in the northeast of Nigeria. I commend my fellow colleagues. And what is much more tough is that to have to be fighting enemies within your own country is the toughest. And I commend them for the great job they've been doing.
All right. We will put you on hold, Colonel Liam, and at this time now we acknowledge the presence of retired Major General Abiodun Rule. He's on phone. Thank you very much, sir. Good morning. All right, are you there, Major General Rule?
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much.
General.
Let's have a quick word from you in commemoration of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day today. The question has been asked, beyond the fanfare of today, shooting in the air, pigeons, laying of wreaths. Now, what's the significance of the day for people like you?
Well, for us, it's a period of reflection. It's a period to look back at the achievements of the armed forces over the years. It's a period to remember all of those that have sacrificed their lives for this country. It's a period to look at those who are presently serving the nation and looking at all the achievements they have been able to accomplish, looking at how they are fulfilling that requirement to ensure national unity and to also ensure that the armed forces as an institution of national unity keeps on projecting that quality that ensures national cohesion. That's what the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, to my mind, is all about.
All right, General, let me stay with you here. A lot of people have said that the Nigerian armed forces, or members of the armed forces, those who are retired and those who pay the ultimate price, Nigeria has not really been fair when it comes to reciprocating the gesture of showing them appreciation enough in their welfare and in as well taking care of those who have retired and all of that. What do you say?
Well, I wouldn't say that Nigeria has not been fair. What I would say is that we are all part and parcel of existing subculture that we call Nigeria in its approach to how we uphold the values of our armed forces. We cannot separate the citizens from the government that's in power, and citizens must understand that the armed forces is so unique in its entirety that one, it's the institution that holds the country together, is the institution that is used to project, foreign policy. And when it comes to the welfare of members of the armed forces, I think we always downplay it. We always downplay it. And at every turning point, you find out that members of the armed forces, those who have retired, like every other institution, have to bring the awareness of current government to the fact that, look, you need to keep fulfilling this. The government needs to keep fulfilling, its obligations.
Okay. All right, General, thank you very much. We have to leave you there now. Thank you very much for talking to us this morning, and we wish you well going forward. Now, as Nigeria marks the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, an annual event to honor members of the military who fought and are still fighting in the various theaters of conflict within Nigeria and across the world, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, says it is a day for Nigerians to reflect on the sacrifices of the military in ensuring the safety of Nigerians and the sovereignty of Nigeria.
The Remembrance Day, in my opinion, should be a day for us to actually remember the commitment, patriotism, and diligence of members of the armed forces. the officers and men that we have in the Northeast, those that have sacrificed even before the insurgency in World War I, World War II, other conflicts in ECOMOG, Nigeria's civil war as well, and so many other theaters of conflict where people have laid their lives so that we all can have dignity as human beings, so that others can live their lives and pursue those aspirations that they want to pursue. I think that's the greatest sacrifice anybody can do. There is no sacrifice that is more than giving one's life. But it's a wonderful sacrifice that we in the armed forces have all accepted to make at the point of entry into the armed forces. But we must also pray for those that have lost their lives and continue to support the families. We have had discussion with the families of those that have lost their lives, even after the burial ceremony. I invited them to the office and took some time to discuss some issues and to encourage them and to also tell them that the service is going to take care of their children and so on, as provided for in the harmonized terms and conditions of service. So to me, that is what the day should really be, a day of reflection, a day for us, especially all Nigerians, to really understand that this war is a national struggle. It's not a struggle by the military. And that is why that national image it has is really very important.
All right, still in the spirit of Armed Forces Remembrance Day, my Chief of Air Staff, Sadiq Abubakar, speaking there. Well, we also have in the studio still retired Colonel Inyam, who is with us. We appreciate your time with us. We'll put you on hold still, if you will, and then link with our Abuja correspondent, our defense correspondent, TVC News, Sifon SCN, to bring us updates from the arcade ground in Abuja. Hello, Sifon. Happy Armed Forces Remembrance Day to you. How are things looking from your end?
Good morning and welcome to Abuja. It's a bright and sunny morning here in the nation's capital. And all is set for the wreath laying at the National Arcade. The National Arcade is just a couple of meters behind me, where the wreath would be laid at the National Cenotaph in honor of the fallen heroes and our living legends. That will happen in a couple of minutes, say roughly 1 hour. The event here will kick off. That's the situation here, but I'm being joined here by Group Captain Shehu Sadiq, retired. And good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
A couple of minutes, roughly 1 hour, the wreath laying ceremony will kick off. Time and again, January the 15th, this ceremony is being held. What impression does this leave on you, being a retired Air Force officer?
Well, it is something of joy. It is something also of sober reflection, not only for members of the armed forces and the wives and children of those that died, but also for the whole nation. Armed Forces Remembrance Day is a tradition in many, many countries of the world, where it is a day dedicated to the remembrance of those who have ever served, because in some countries it is called Veterans Day. By veteran, you mean anybody who had served and is no longer serving. In other countries, they even make the differentiation and have a memorial day, which is dedicated to those ones that have actually died. And then in America, apart from the Veterans Day and the Remembrance Day, they also have the Armed Forces Day, which is for those that are still living. So in Nigeria, since we don't have that demarcation, we believe the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is now 15th of January, is for the remembrance of those that have served and left, still living, that have served but died in the process, and also for the current officers and men who are doing a yeoman's job in protecting the territorial integrity and the safety and security of Nigerians. Going backwards, we may remember that initially this was not celebrated on 15 January. It used to be on 11th of November. And this has become from our historical antecedents, with the armed forces having served under the Allies during the World War. The armistice was signed on the 11th of November. So before we were celebrating it 11th of November. But rightly, the government of Nigeria thought that we have had our own skirmishes here. We have had the Civil War, we've had other conflicts, we fought other peacekeeping operations that Nigerians have died as a sovereign country. So it was felt that the day on which the Nigerian Civil War officially ended should be used to celebrate the Armed Forces Day. So it is in reflection of this customary practice that applies in many over the world that Nigeria is also celebrating the Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
This is to honor members of the armed forces living and dead.
Yes.
Are they really being honored?
Well, again, that is the question. Apart from the symbolic, dedication of a day to remember the armed forces, if we draw from other countries, they do a lot of other things which shows the appreciation, because the significance of this day is to show appreciations, is to honor, is to thank members of the armed forces who have served to protect the country and other citizens. Because, in all honesty, serving in the military is not for money. If it were money, many people would not join the military. Even in Nigeria here, there are very far higher paying jobs than the military. So going into the military is a sort of sacrifice. It's a sort of self-abnegation. It's a sort of, aid to humanity. So when you talk about really honored, apart from the symbolic, declaring of the armed forces, remember, the other countries do other things. The government, and I think the military should push that, they should push for a Veterans Act. They should push for preferential employment for veterans. What do they do in other countries? If there is any opening after you have served and you have finished, and you are actually qualified, that is the caveat, you have a higher chance of being taken than somebody who has not served. That is part of the duty, that is part of the compensation that the country thinks it owes you as a service. But unfortunately, we don't have that. And as I'm talking, I hope my colleagues who are still in the military, working with the National Assembly and the executive, should push to see that more concrete thanks, apart from the symbolic parade, the laying of the wreath, is done for those who are still living. And for the children and widows of those that have left, also more should be done to them. So it's something that I would like to see happening.
Before we dwell more on welfare, on Sunday, the Vice President at the church service commemorating this event said this celebration is actually very significant because a few weeks ago, 13 soldiers were killed and buried. They lost their lives in the Northeast. 5 Air Force personnel lost their lives. This goes to show the sacrifices servicemen make to keep this country one. How do you react to his remark?
The comments of VP are very apt, and it also reminds us of the daily sacrifices that soldiers, officers and men and women do daily. Some are known, some are not known. Because in all honesty, sometimes because of the nature, some of the losses are more, publicized than others. Probably because of number or because of the incidents. But there are officers and men that die daily, either through operations or through work-related incidents. And I think the government should do more in recognizing these things. One other aspect I would like to point at is that having a detailed record, a detailed memorial of all those that died. Unfortunately, as a nation, we are very poor at keeping of records. We fought the Civil War, we fought the ECOMOG operations, but unfortunately, we do not have, a record of those that died. As somebody who does research in military issues, in all honesty, I was doing some research some years back on the people that died during Nigerian peacekeeping operation in Congo. I was surprised to meet a professor from Austria, who told me that actually he has names of the first Nigerian soldier that died in peacekeeping operation as far back as November 1960. When I came, in fact, he gave me an assignment because he said they were following. When that soldier called Private Madugu Zonkwa, that is the name. I have never come in my 27 years of service, I have never come across that name. But somebody from Austria, this is a name that has been celebrated in Austrian military history. He told me that the man was buried in Bukavu, Congo. But after he was buried, the Nigerian government, demanded that his body be exhumed. He told me that because what happened there is that during the operation, the Congo operation, almost all our military head of states have served in that operation. From the current Buhari to Obasanjo, to Agui Ironsi, T.Y. Danjuma, all these people have served in that operation. And Nigeria did a fantastic job in an incident just 3 months barely arriving, and just 3 months after independence, they were able to save an Austrian contingent that was held by Congolese rebel. That operation went well. It's only that Madugu Zankwa who lost his life. And the Austrians were very grateful. They gave honors to those Nigerian soldiers, both died and living, and they took special interest to see where Madugu was buried. Eventually, once his body was brought to Nigeria, they said that's when they lost contact with him. He told me that there are still Austrians who are alive, who want to know where Madugu Zankwa is buried, so that they could visit and pay their honor. Unfortunately, when I came back to Nigeria, traces of Madugu Zankwa can no longer be found. So what am I saying? We should not, only declare a day. We should document these things. As every, conflict is going, history is being written. Those that died, those that lost their limbs, those that lost their eyes, they should be documented and kept so that people behind would know that the unity and the existence of Nigeria was not gotten on a platter of gold. Some people paid with their lives, they paid with their limbs, they paid with their sacrifice.
Now, let's look at those of the armed forces that are alive. People have been described as living legends. Now, let's look at your welfare. Is premium being given to your welfare?
Again, I always like to talk in perspective. When I talk in perspective, it wouldn't be fair to maybe compare, what a Nigerian military man gets and what an American or a British man gets. There are differences in economy. But even within the Nigerian context, honest from emoluments to retirement benefits to pensions, I don't think the Nigerian military man is being appreciated. I wouldn't like to be indiscreet. Were I to reveal what a sergeant who has served 35 years collects as pension or as gratuity or as monthly pension, I am sure you will weep. It is nothing to write home about. The officers are not much better. So honestly, we are talking about welfare. Yes, we hear our soldiers are trying, but there are no welfare packages. In other countries, if there's a public transport, military men, they have a special fare. If there are airlines, military have a special fare. Not only in government employment, even in private employment, military personnel who have served and retired are given preferential treatment during recommendation. Like I said, the caveat is that you are qualified. This is a military engineer who has served in the military, and he was looking job. Shell is looking for a job, and there's a civilian engineer who has not served in other countries. That military engineer will get preference. These are some of the issues that the government needs to look into.
Now, what do you think is the way forward, finally, before we go back to our studio in Lagos?
The way forward is both for the serving military who are inside, because unfortunately, or rather fortunately, those that are in the military still serving the uniform, they are the ones who have the bigger voice. But they should also remember that every military man will eventually retire. They should look at the plight of those that are retired. They should look at the plight of widows and continue to advocate through the executive and the National Assembly for better laws, for better, I've talked of the Veterans Act. I think we should have that. They should look for preferential employment opportunities for people that have served and sacrificed their life, and so that the transition from military life to civil life will be very easy. Right now, in all honesty, it is very, very difficult for retired military men to really, and when you look at it, even our officers, we generally retire at a relatively young age, 56 or 58. Even if you are a Major General, you are out of the service. At 58, in all honesty, if God spares you, and it's not as if you have taken a lot of money from the system, you'll find that you have like 10 or 15 years more to live, and you need to earn a living. It's not easy for some of these officers.
Thank you very much, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, retired. Let's leave it there for now. You have it, and well, let's have a handshake.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. The pleasure is mine. Yeah, we are a couple of meters away, as I mentioned earlier, from the National Cenotaph, where you have the National Arcade, where the wreath would be laid in less than an hour from now to bring the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration to a peak. And I'll return you back to Lagos.
Yeah, Sifon, let's find out, apart from the laying of wreaths and that ceremonial activity, what else is taking place in Abuja? What are the people saying when it comes to, because you asked some questions there to the group captain, what are residents of Abuja saying? How are they feeling today?
Well, it's a day many residents of Abuja, if you've stayed here for more than 1 year, you must have witnessed it more than once. Apart from the fact that traffic is being restricted to where the actual event is taking place, the area is being cordoned off. the traffic is not too easy. However, you know, there had been pre-warnings or admonitions on alternative routes to take. But the fact is that the contributions of members of our armed forces remains paramount on the minds of residents in Abuja here, even those that are passing, even as we speak. They want more attention to be given to the armed forces.
All right, Sifon Essien, beautiful package from you and, of course, the group captain there. Our regards to him, of course. He remains dear to us. Thank you very much. Of course, we will get back to you for more. We also have retired Colonel Tony Inyam there. Let's compare notes now with what the group captain said. Let's begin with the legions. Yes. He talked about the non-existence of a law to safeguard the interests of the living heroes now who fought in various wars within and outside the country. There is actually a Legion Act. The president has even said there's going to be a review and has submitted that now to the National Assembly now to better upgrade the lifestyle of the veterans. But you mentioned your father also fought in the Burma War, in Burma, of course. What are your thoughts now? What exactly do you want to see changed or bettered now in the lifestyles of the veterans?
Like I said earlier, even when the British had left, they were still paying my dad allowances, and they took good care of the ex-servicemen. And in fact, why I went into the army was by virtue of
what you saw,
what I saw, and I saw the military was a place where people were cared for, those who fought years after. Now, and my father actually was Secretary of the Legion in Lagos, and I remember even soldiers who had left, who fought the war, who didn't remember they needed allowances, they were looked for, and the allowance was given. Where we, at the moment now, we have a case where even military pensioners are looking for increment of their pension. I do pray that is dealt with. What is worse, apart from the officers like me, the soldiers, the rank and file, a lot of them are suffering, and I think a lot needs to be done. One cannot but overemphasize that the military is so crucial to the survival of any country, and as such should be equally rewarded.
But do you enjoy any advantages, like when you fly, you go to the airlines, or even within Lagos? Are there any advantages you enjoy?
None at all, none at all. In fact, let me say this. I was a young subaltern officer in the UK when I was because I was seconded to the command there. The benefits we enjoyed, once an officer leaves, merely he leaves the army, you are given preferential treatment because the training of an military officer, it's really so much, you know, the discipline you have, the loyalty you have, that in itself is, I would even say, that the training I got from the Defense Academy, I got from the Staff College, was much more than the first degree and the masters I had in the UK. I would say that the training of the military officer, I mean, if you look at the likes of, an example, just look at the likes of Alabi Sama, a general like that. You know what a soldier is made of. Having said this, I call on my colleagues that they should keep on serving, and they should heed the word of the Catholic Bishop of Abuja, Oneka. He recently made very powerful statements, which is that he recalled what one of the African fathers of the early fathers, founding fathers of Christianity, St. Augustine of Hippo. He recalled his two statements, which I want to repeat. One, he said, the armed forces must always defend genuine peace, which in accordance, I quote Oneka, in accordance to his quotation, Hippo said you should defend tranquility in good order. That is not the peace of the graveyard. Justice is important. And he went further to quote the same St. Augustine of Hippo. This was an African. Now, he was from Algeria, really, who said also that the armed forces must put government behind justice, and good governance. In other words, the armed forces is to defend justice, fairness, and no more time is this crucial than as we go into the election.
Right.
The armed forces have a duty to make sure that they live up to what they've been.
All right, now, since independence until now, Nigeria has had about 12, 13 heads of state. Out of this, the military has or have had more heads of state than civilian presidents. And we expect that when it comes to understanding what the military, the rank and file or the officers go through, they should have been in the best place and best position to ensure that the welfare and that recognition and all of that is upheld. But that doesn't seem to be so. Would you see that they are disconnected from the system?
You are so correct. In fact, in the civilian heads of states have done more for the military. The likes of Shehu Shagari, I mean, apart from General Gowon, most other head of states, military head of states, have not done as much as they should have done. And I think this is why I think the present head of state, General Muhammad Buhari, needs to do more. She needs to do more for the military, especially those who are dying. I haven't said so. I'm saying that civilian regimes and democracy has given more to the military than
the military heads of state.
Which is the irony.
Okay. All right. And then let's talk about the widows. Yes. Let's talk about the children. Past and even, present, we can relate with earlier in the month now where 5
pilots,
pilots also went down, after serving the nation in such a heroic manner. What is being done for the widows, for the loved ones, survivors of, our fallen heroes?
Thank you for that question. I think not much. I would have thought that such children of people who die should have automatic admission to institutions like the military school and the NDA, if they have the qualification. Because some of us who went to the military school Zaria, we were given, because our parents were from the military, we were given advantages. And I think a lot of people who died, I have about 4 close relations who died in the Northeast. Until now, their families nothing has been done much for them, both in the army and also in the police force. So I think not much more need to do. And also, I also appeal that Nigerians must, as a people, realize that we need to honor and give and reward those in service. Having said that, I also appeal that there's a need for a quadrupling the numbers of people in the armed forces, because at the moment they are understretched. And any government ignoring that is going to our detriment. We need to put more money and expand the numbers of people in our armed forces. I tell you this, we have only one army, which is not up to a full-size army, really, because an army is made up of 3 divisions making a corps, 3 corps make an army. We have an army that is almost the size of 1 or 2 corps. That is, we're short for. But Ethiopia, which is half of our population, which is less in GDP, has 4 armies. 4 armies. In other words, Ethiopia has 10 times the size of who we have in our army. Our country is larger, has double the size population, and the men in uniform are overstretched. And that issue needs to be addressed.
And don't have as much security concerns as we have here.
We have indeed, my dear. Sorry, I would say, indeed, we have security kidnapping. We have, from the northeast extended to the northwest. You have even the president states, the governor feeling insecure. You have Zamfara and much more. So we need more people in the armed forces. And in fact, it could be a case to solve the problem of unemployment, because the unemployment now is itself a security risk for our country. So I think that the government needs to wake up to quadruple, that is 4 times fold the number. And the military can be an avenue for training our youths for other areas and deal with the issue of area boys, deal with the issue of our youths now resorting to ritual killings.
Okay.
The military can serve as
right.
a means of reorientation.
All right. We'll come back to this because this is a very sensitive area you have talked about now. Now, Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, in an exclusive interview with TVC News, also spoke on the sacrifices made by the army to ensure the security of Nigerians.
Annually, the armed forces are remembered. That is to show that the labor and indeed the sacrifices made by the troops of the armed forces are never in vain, and they are always remembered that they serve their country and they will never be forgotten. And one is proud, to serve this country in this capacity. A great country. We don't have any other country than Nigeria, and we must make sure that we protect it and we preserve its integrity.
The Chief of Army Staff there.
Indeed. Well, beyond Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai's message there, what words do you have for members of the armed forces on and off the battlefield? TVC Breakfast sought the views of some Nigerians on this.
For many years, the Nigerian armed forces have worked to keep the peace of the country. Gallant officers and men have paid the supreme sacrifice for the safety and security of Nigeria and Nigerians. I am Abosede Omowi, and I'm here to find out from Nigerians their opinions about these men and women who have sworn to protect them.
I will commend the Nigerian military so far for their job well done. It is not easy for somebody using knife to go and fight somebody that is using gun.
The federal government should try as much as possible to equip them more for them to be able to combat the insurgency.
Nigerian, they are really trying. But I want to advise our federal government to make sure that they give them the equipment they need so that they can try more.
You will agree with me that the Nigerian nation, we have so many things that affect us, especially our borders. Very porous borders has limited the effort of the Nigerian army.
For the Nigerian military, I think I will greet them because they've tried, if not because of the sponsorship that is not enough for them, that is giving them enough arms to fight for the country. They would have done more for their country than what they are doing now.
Nigerian armies are trying, but they need more devotion, then facilities, then equipment, and experienced leaders.
The Nigerian military, they are trying their best to see that we have peace in this country. My idea is that we should all imbibe peace in the country and pray for this country.
We are appealing to the federal government of Nigeria, they should please help our brothers and sisters, our loved ones, provide ammunition for them so that we can fight this insurgency, because Nigeria belongs to everybody, it belongs to nobody.
Nigeria tends to have one of the best army in the world, so I believe our army are quite capable and they're doing their best, except for the fact that there might be some infiltration.
They need all Nigeria support, prayer, financial, to boost their morale.
I would say they are trying. So far they've done well, but I believe they can still do better.
About 3 years ago, the insurgents Boko Haram issues was so rampant that even people living in the north and even we that are here, we live in fear. But about 2 years ago, last year, there has been a great change, and we hope for a better one.
Can we just, in one voice, appreciate the military? Yes. This tag I'm wearing is the Armed Forces. It's for the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. It's to appreciate the efforts of the military in the war against insurgency and other wars they have been involved in. Yes. So let's just say kudos to the Nigerian military.
Yes.
We salute them, their courage, their efforts.
Yes.
And we wish them more strength.
We wish them more strength. We are spiritual soldiers. We pray for them always. We have a group where we pray for the peace of the nation. We have a group where we pray and we call upon the armed forces of heaven to join with them so that they can fight this battle and we can have peace in our nation. This is what we do every day. So I really am glad. I really am glad.
All right. So yes. I'm Abosede Omowi, and Nigerians have spoken. Yes. Kudos, Nigerian Armed Forces. Thank you for all you do. We have
Indeed, the labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. Indeed, there.
That's the 10th line of the Nigerian national anthem, and the labor of our heroes past will never be in vain.
At all.
It's one thing that every Nigerian holds very dearly. We still have Colonel Tony Nyam with us in the studio, retired. Now let's talk about the issue within the military. Except for the last 3-4 years, budgetary allocation to the armed forces or defense has been on the higher side than any other sector. And that was because the government saw priority in the area of maintaining security. But a lot of people have accused the military of corruption within the system. Part of the reason why the soldiers don't have enough weapons and all of that, even though the government hasn't released enough, but some people still say that even within the military, what is supposed to trickle down doesn't trickle down, especially in the area of welfare. What do you say?
I think I must begin by, to answer you, to thank all the Nigerians who spoke. I thank them for what they've said, in the sense that they are calling on the political elite that the military is doing its best, that the military needs to be equipped. So the political class needs to wake up to that responsibility. It is the political class, the policy makers, that actually is holding things back. They are the ones, in response to the issue of corruption, they are the only ones who can deal with it, because the political head are what are called the higher management of defense. They set the standard. That's where the problem is. So as to whether money spent is going down, I think there are a lot of questions to be answered on that. But having said that, I must be honest with you. In spite of all the allocations made, they are still, per the percentage of the GDP, Nigeria is still very low. In fact, compared to, if you go to what is called OECD records, if you look at all the countries around us, we are almost 10% of what they spend per, even Benin Republic. So the money we spend for the size of our country, and as was said earlier, the security we have is very low. We need better funding and better equipment. And of course, we need a much more transparent system, because the idea of the corruption we've been reading about and hearing, it's unacceptable. Where soldiers are protesting, it has to be addressed.
Compare that, retired Colonel Libiam, with the other side. As we continue to pray for our soldiers who are on dangerous terrains, and they're now contending with the terrorists. Now we see the terrorists hitting back at the soldiers, going into the military bases, pilfering, taking sophisticated weapons, in addition to weapons that they already have. How do you view this war that our soldiers are contending with?
It's a tough war. And that's why, like I said, because they are understretched. You see, if you know the Northeast, I was under the president. I was a commander of the unit, the engineer maintenance regiment. And I had my companies all over the Northeast. Yola, Mudbaga.
That's what it's called, companies.
Companies, you have companies under a battalion command. I was a battalion commander, engineer. Yeah. Now, if you know the Northeast is so large that you have to have a division there. It's not enough. Because if you have a unit in one part of Baga, the unit is virtually isolated. And usually, the way the military is deployed is that we are deployed in a way where you have a formation here, you have by your flanks other formations. So in terms of manpower, we are really overstretched. And that is why we need to have more people in service. More people need to be brought into. In fact, there's a need for a kind of a Marshall Plan, using the military as a way of creating employment, and at the same time, beefing up the security of the country. If you hear what the governor of Borno has said, that he pays over 20,000 JTF, and is pleading that those JTF, they should be given arms. It shows that there's a big shortfall which is not being addressed. there's no way you can expect a small army to deal with. Apart from technology, you need the manpower, you need human intelligence, and this has to do with people being on the ground.
All right, we'll come back to this. Now, many have paid the supreme price to protect the territorial integrity of our great country, but to many people, they are just numbers and statistics of the cost of an insurgency. And this special report, Ovieteme George, brings you closer to the grief of a fallen hero's family, late Poroway Jacob, who was one of the 5 airmen who died in Damasak, Borno State, earlier in the month.
December the 8th, 2018, the young Nigerian pilot tied the nuptial knot with his longtime friend, Dieprie Inokoba. 5 days after the wedding ceremony in Yenagoa, Poroway got a call to proceed to Borno State. On January the 2nd, news filtered in that he had died alongside 4 airmen while providing close air support to troops of 145 Battalion in Damasak in the fight against Boko Haram insurgents. News of the crash threw the nation into mourning. With little difficulty, I was able to trace the home of the foster mother of the Mi-35M pilot who lives in the Akenfa area of Yenagoa. She recalls previous conversations with Flight Lieutenant Poroway Jacob.
He will call, say, "Mommy, how are you?" I say, "What of your job?" Say, "Mommy, I'm fine." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just pray for me." I say, "Mommy, pray for me." I said, "Poroway, I'm praying for you. Every day and night, I'm praying for you." I call him a hero. He's our hero. He fights for Nigeria to make Nigeria to become one country.
The young wife of the Nigerian pilot was already looking at the big picture before the fatal incident.
The dream I had for him was for him to become the air chief. Because that's what I call him most times. I call him my air chief. Because most persons will say he was one of the best pilots in Nigeria. But to me, he's the only best.
A portrait of her husband reminds her of the friendship they shared. At a time of grief, she takes solace in the fact that he died fighting for the country.
He will forever be my hero. So we'll miss him greatly, but God knows best. And we pray he finds peace in the bosom of the Lord.
Tuesday, January the 8th, the 5 airmen were buried with full military honors at the National Military Cemetery, Abuja.
These gallant heroes lost their lives in the pursuit of peace, freedom, and dignity for Nigeria and Nigerians.
Everyone in leadership position has a duty when things like this happen to come to the aid and the support of the loved ones that have been left behind by our fallen gallant officers.
Here, at the base of the unknown soldier, I stand looking at the statue, wondering what it is like to fight for this great country, Nigeria. At 32, Flight Lieutenant Poroway Jacob and his colleagues are casualties of war, but their names, like those who had gone before them, are written in gold in the history books of this country, having paid the supreme price, fighting to defend the territorial integrity of fatherland, Nigeria. Ovieteme George, TVC News, Yenagoa, Bayelsa State.
All right, this draws us closer to feeling what these people go through, because the point there is, if you are the mother or the father or the wife or the husband or the child of one of those who lost their lives, then you begin to feel the connect of what families or what sacrifices these people make to keep Nigeria
and
one.
you know, Mike, And Mr. Colonel Ibiam here, you know, these are just to many of us, it's just numbers. Okay, yet another soldier is dead, or yet another person dies. But, you know, for you to relate with, you know, this people, to see how hard they fought the war, and yet they had to succumb. Really moving story there. But now we have lost yet another soldier or troops now in their prime. And then you talk about recruitment. We need more. The gap is yawning. Sure. But the recruitment process is an issue. We see it in the papers that, okay, another recruitment process is on. But then people talk about the difficulty in entering. Many people want to. Mike remains at Admira. Many people want to enter the system. But what happens?
First of all, I must commend TVC for that human angle to it, because, you see, it humanized a soldier, and I'm happy how you showed the family. These are human beings like every other human being, but they are human beings who are drawn by call to duty. And you see the young man, a good pilot, and like the wife said, the greatest chief.
The family still remains proud.
Indeed.
Even though they've
and
lost
I was
someone.
so pleased with the foster mom who said that, and I commend her, who said he's a hero. He's indeed a hero.
Indeed.
On that basis, if you go to France, Paris, you go to London, to go to Edinburgh, you will see that most of the monuments in the city's main parks, are of military, those who lost their lives. So I'm suggesting that the likes of this pilot, his monument should be there in Yenegua.
Not unknown.
Not left unknown. And this should happen to the likes of the young pilot Hedima, who died who was not sung, the son of my mate in the Air Force, who died, the pilot was shot and he died, Hedima. Should be remembered. I think when I look at this young man, just recently married, and then to go through this. But then, of course, may he so rest in peace.
Amen.
And I think Nigerians, and I think the political class, the president, the governors should put their actions, they should put what they say into actions by ensuring that these chaps who died, like the families of these pilots, their kids must go automatically to, for example, all the military institutions. They should be given a chance because they have courage in their blood, and they are people who should go into the...
All right. The issue of recruitment is one strong point you have made. Yeah. And Kemi was asking earlier, you said that there's a shortfall in the number of personnel. And when it comes to recruitment, people are willing, a lot of people, but it gets a little difficult to get in.
You are right. I think corruption is one of the problems. I must be fair. Secondly, we really need we need a much more transparent approach to getting people into the armed forces. Okay. There are many people who want. And what we now have is that now you have an issue where politicians are hijacking the process. You know, you don't have a situation where in those days, just like the likes of General Dia was a young boy, we grew up in the same part of Lagos, and a young secondary school boy who went into the army without any much problem. The same, and I saw him as a senior, and I followed suit with no much problem. All we needed to do was to pass the appropriate exams. These days, it is man no man, and it is who is the politician backing you. In other words, Godfatherism is being moved into an area, and this is why you have at times some soldiers who are trained don't have the discipline, the appropriate discipline. I think you are right. The system needs to be much more transparent in the recruitment, and again, there should be much more better incentives for people who join the army and serve through.
Okay.
Well, your final words now on this issue. We've spoken about the widows. We've spoken about so many angles now on this issue. But what do you have to say about the current programs of the present leadership now? That's talking about President Muhammadu Buhari. Of course, this is even a man now who can relate, having fought several wars. He calls himself the grand patron, and rightly so, of the legions. What do you have to say about the body language. You've said so much about corruption in certain quarters, but now with the president, how sincere does he seem to you?
Sincere? I would only put it this way, that first, the areas of soldiers and the increment, just as it's done to the police, should be done. The areas of soldiers, retired soldiers, is there. As to the issue of sincerity of the president, I think that's a very personal question. But what I would say is that because it's a government, I mean, I think there's a lot that much more to be done. Okay. Because there's a lot more to be done. Because the state of insecurity is indication as to the sincerity of the government.
Okay. We have to leave it there now. Colonel Tony Nyam, retired. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. We wish you many more years of relevance and good health. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.